Good morning, Jennifer Brown. How are you?
Hello, Jen Grace. I'm good. Happy Monday. Happy Manic Monday and every day.
And all of the things. Yes.
And
yes.
all the things. Yes.
And I said good morning, but it's already 11:30, but it still
That's true.
has a morning feel to it at the moment.
It does. It's a nice sort of fall morning in the Northeast anyway, where you and I are. It's like 60s, kind of things are changing for sure. Fall is on the way.
It sure is. And then we have Jessica Mand with us too. And she's also in fall-like weather here in Connecticut.
That's
so
right.
practically,
Welcome,
very close. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. You know what? Manic Monday in the time of COVID, the way to start it off right is to get to the gym. So I was able to go to the gym and do some weightlifting this morning, which always makes me feel good in a socially responsible way too, of course. But
yes, wiping down all the equipment before you put it back,
wiping down everything. That's right. Exactly. And then staying socially distant from everybody. But
that's right. And trying to breathe through the mask, which is hard if you're like huffing and puffing. That's always fun.
Yeah.
But we are blessed.
That's right. That's right.
Well, good for you for starting off your week strong. That's good stuff. I cannot say the same, but I applaud you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So for context in our conversation today, so Jessica, you and I have known each other for a while now here locally in Connecticut. We network and mingle together in, better times. We would be in person, which would be wonderful. But we have the commonality of the Purpose Practiced group, which you are a founding member of or partner in, whatever your language is. I would love to start there in our conversation because there are so many things that we can talk about today. But I would love to just kind of anchor it in just this idea of practicing your purpose. So can you tell us a little bit about what that is and like how it helps people? And then, Jen and I are organically just going to start peppering you with questions.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So Purpose Practiced is a developmental program, and it's designed to help people really focus on what drives their passion, what is their central purpose of their life. And many of us go through life when we're not really aware of what that exactly is. Speaking for myself, I've been very blessed that all along my career path, I have found like the right next job, the right next thing that came, but it came kind of just naturally. And I wonder now if I had sat down and I was really intentional about what I wanted to achieve in the next 3 years, where I could have actually landed and how much farther I would have been. So what Purpose Practiced does for many people is help them figure out what that big goal is 3 years out, and then the steps that you want to take to get there really super fast. And it's all anchored on that central purpose. So this is a purpose that will never not be true for that individual. They feel it so strongly, they will make any effort and any change in their life to make it happen. So it's just a really amazing program. We have, I think, about 80 clients that have gone through now. We launched officially in July of this year. We just had our first ever retreat, business retreat for the core team members. And I just received my first swag today, this morning. So I'm so excited.
It's real.
It's real. It's totally real. But the more exciting thing is seeing the successes of our clients and what they have already achieved. They thought that it would take them years and years to achieve it. And it's happening in some cases in months. It's outstanding.
Amazing.
So
it's such an amazing process. And I was part of the guinea pig group who went through it in the group version before that, like just to kind of test out, like, is a group version going to work?
Yes.
And I feel like I had clarity. And this was probably last May, I think I went through it, or sometime last spring, I think. And I feel like even my company's called Publish Your Purpose. Like clearly purpose is at the central core of what I do. And I feel like I had a really good grasp on what my purpose was. But going through this, I was like, hell yeah, I'll be a guinea pig, sign me up. And it was such an awesome experience. But even the deeper clarity that I got, I ended up using my purpose statements as the ending of my book. Like how you can't get any more perfect than the the purpose that comes out of like this brainstorming and this, brain trust of really awesome humans to then be able to use it in such like practical applications. Like I have it in my email signature. Like I broadcast that everywhere because it's just so awesome to have other people helping you like see your purpose outside of yourself, which is so valuable.
Yeah, the energy of the group itself is really dynamic and incredible, and we found a lot of additional success in just having like 3 people go through together and seeing the commonality in 3 people who you would think are completely different, but they have issues that are very similar or dreams that are aligned, and them reflecting back to one another what they see and hear is just incredibly powerful.
So wow. Jess, I know we all believe that we're in the midst of a sea change in society, right? And there's an ascension that's happening that's a very difficult one, right? It's necessarily painful, I think, because something is being transformed. And it's the heat of that oven, it's the chaos of the unknowing and the becoming. Yes. And so I wonder about this work, particularly now. It's always been important, but I think the role we can play in speeding that along and accelerating that, and also to lead into that, the realization of our purpose, I think, is part of that, like the transition that a lot of us need to make closer to our most true purpose, because we're living lives that are very, I would argue, in some cases, really apart from that, right? The 3 of us have the privilege of working from our core like every day. But we can remember those days when we were wandering and lost and, not really aligned and not really centered on it, and what that felt like to feel really apart from your heart and your, how you can be of service on this earth. So, I mean, you talk about like something super important. This work feels really important individually and also like at a society level, because so much is going on right now. So how do you see the connections between all of that? Oh
yeah, absolutely. I mean, with the ascension that we're all going through, both culturally and within the world and each of us individually as well, we're realizing that there is no more time to play small. You've got to leave that behind. And so that's a part of what Purpose Practiced helps people do. We also work with families and we work with couples, but it's like, what is that legacy you actually want to leave behind? Or, hey, you could leave a legacy behind. What change do you want to make, like the real legitimate change in your life, in the life of your family, in the life of the people around you, in culture even? I mean, why not? It's very exciting. It's very different, what we're trying to achieve with her practice. But it's really glorious seeing what is coming forward and how people are really aligned, not with like goals, but with a mission to be.
And are you seeing, like, I'm curious if you were to go back in time and think like what might have been different if Purpose Practice were launching last year versus like in the middle of COVID? Because I feel like, and Jen and I, this comes up, I feel like on a lot of our conversations, is just how things have shifted so differently in terms of expectations of people, perceptions of others, things you can and can't get away with. Like, I feel like we're in a much more flexible environment and we're being more on a broad level. This is obviously not specific to everyone, but we're being more accepting of people's differences and flaws that we're seeing, or things that we may have once been perceived as a flaw that are not actually viewed that way anymore. Like, we're just in a more like accepting environment. Do you think that that's like shifting how you've been like launching this new, because this isn't the only thing that you do, which we will definitely get into in a minute, but like, do you think that that's been like a big kind of differentiator too? Because like now's the time.
Oh yeah, I think that's right. It's the rocket fuel behind what we're trying to achieve, right? Nobody, as I was saying, nobody wants to live small anymore. And to your point, Jen, about being really open and authentic, we are in interesting times, and I now have a whole tribe of new people that I've met through Zoom calls, regular Zoom calls. I have never been more vulnerable and open with these people. I have cried. I told them stories that were, you know, deep or impactful or hurtful that probably I haven't told, you know, people that I'm physically close to, like my closest friends. And many of us, it's kind of interesting. We're getting to know one another in reverse. Whereas I know these people on a really deep emotional level, but I don't know what they do for a living. I don't know, you know, I don't know how they spend their days. I don't know who their partner, their family situation is, which is it's really breathtaking and so wonderful to be allowed to come forward in such a very raw, authentic way. And I'm really loving that. And I'm seeing that, you know, tying it back to purpose practice, people are coming forward that want to expose that central purpose, that central need, and be raw and figure out, okay, well, you know, I've just been living. Now it's time to me to really be intentional about what I'm going to achieve and what I want. And that we help them do that. And it's a very, I feel very privileged to be a part of that, for many of these people. So.
That's so lovely. I mean, we're seeing, Jess, I know you've spent some time in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, right? With your corporate roles you've had, and you were doing comms, which is so critical and often neglected part of succeeding with this work. But the whole concept of bringing your fuller self to the workplace. Ironically, this year, as we've been distanced from each other, we've actually like parachuted into each other's lives in a really different way that's generated empathy, which has generated this social justice awakening, which is I see you and you're revealing things to me and you're trusting me with so much more of what you've always struggled with. And strangely, it's almost a faux intimacy, but it's like actually a real new level of intimacy when we are separated by screens. We are sort of at the same time, I think, more confessional. We're more real. We can't conceal our lives. Like it's all happening behind us, you know? And so as an LGBTQ person, for example, like if I were closeted to my colleagues, there's no way I could have maintained that because my partner, Michelle, is like walking back and forth behind me. So it's like some of us were forced to, I think, jump into the void of trust and overcome because it was sort of expected of us, like we had to show up. And therefore, I think we have had to be much more honest with each other. And that alone has kind of shifted our solidarity with each other, has shifted our bravery and courage with each other.
Yes.
And then I think you are right there to say, so what does this all mean? Because now you're realizing that you weren't bringing this. Now you're realizing that you were spending so much time not being truthful to your purpose or even investigating that or feeling held by people for your differences and being appreciated. And so much that we used to fear, I wonder is falling away in an interesting way. So we're achieving something like new. And so all of a sudden we're open to what you're teaching and able maybe from a bandwidth perspective or maybe spiritual bandwidth. I mean, I think people are sort of low on the concrete, like day-to-day bandwidth, but maybe, I don't know, there's just something deeper going on that's shifting for all of us. Like, what do we really want? And I think we're seeing, like, for example, I don't want to go back to a physical workplace. I don't know if I like this life. And that has kind of, I think, unleashed permission in all of us to think about what would actually work for me. Like, what would really bring me joy? And you would then realize you never let yourself think about that. Our bosses and our institutions never let us think about that, you know? So it's just fascinating, like the byproducts of all of this. And the fact that the Genie is now like out, it's unleashed, you know, and it's very, very exciting. I mean, it's terrifying in many other respects what's happening, but there is something really juicy going on right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of gold to be found, you know, and I agree. It feels a little bit weird to say that, you know, as far as how I've been doing. Once I found this new tribe, this new community that I've connected to, hello, Kitty.
Hello, Kitty.
That really helped me. But as far as, you know, my primary business, in-demand communications, I've been doing all right. So, you know, my corporate clients still need to communicate to their employees. That's
more
not
than ever.
right? And I focus on a lot of healthcare communications and all sorts of and benefits communications right now, all sorts of different things like that. But again, that's not going away. But I love how we are all now. We've been given this additional permission to show up as our true selves and really, really be honest about what our needs are. I'm learning how to ask for help. I never do that. I am a solo entrepreneur. I can get stuff done. I'm going to do it on my own. I don't have to, though. And I have now so many people that are loving and willing to be there. And, whether it's if I need emotional help, whether it's if I need some help, I don't know, getting something done in a socially distant way. But, I have this group of people that are around that are willing to step forward. More so now than ever before. And it's crazy. It's crazy in times like this.
Isn't that counterintuitive? Yeah, to discover community, like the power of community. And I know in the work world, the affinity groups, all the diversity networks are really, they're expanding their membership hugely, especially the parenting networks, especially the mental health networks. And that conversation is really exploding. And so people are like getting involved in a different way, paradoxically, right? With things we used to struggle with in the physical workplace. Somehow they're easier and they're more inclusive actually in this reality, which is something we really struggled with. So yeah, I think I do, while not forgetting all the broken things that we are all around us, we do need to kind of recognize the positive shifts that are being shown to us and decide who we want to be. Right.
And I'm trying to stay focused on that. It's so easy to watch the news and just go spiraling. One of the things I've learned in this time is actually how to maintain my balance and my mental health. And that means basically staying away from TV and connecting more with people. So, and my kitties too.
And kitties.
And I think, and Jenn, you kind of said Ascension before, and we were talking about it a little bit before we started hitting record. But I feel like so much of this all kind of boils together that I feel like in so many ways, COVID is a catalyst in making us have to slow down while simultaneously having to speed up, rethinking every single thing about our lives, rethinking how we interact with people, how we communicate with people. And I think there are so many blessings in all of that. And I know that, Jenn, you already said, like, we're like, this is a privileged conversation that the three of us are able to have, which I know that there are many people who are not, like they've lost their jobs or they don't have the ability to make ends meet and things like that. So I fully recognize that me saying this is a blessing could not be perceived, by some as that. But I feel like around just like, and I would love, Jess, if you want to talk a little bit about just kind of like what your interpretation of this kind of like ascension that is occurring, because we both realized prior to hitting record that we've both been down this rabbit hole for quite a bit. But I feel like for me, it just the ability to see beyond what I previously was able to see I feel like if you're looking for the good, you're going to find good. If you're looking for the bad, you're going to find the bad. So like you had just said, like, by not watching the news, I haven't watched the news in a decade and I have no intentions of starting now. So I feel like, we have to do things that just help our mental health. Right. And I think it's things like this, like everyday practical things.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So let me start with Ascension. And then I'm going to pivot to looking for and finding the everyday good stuff. So Ascension right now is happening. You have to burn down old ways of thinking, old structures, old ways of being in order to allow the new stuff to come in. And so we're seeing huge unrest in the world, huge unrest in the United States. And all of this stuff is happening just to awake people, to shake people awake. And so we are all more aware of the world we're living in the issues that are still existing that we may have thought were perhaps behind us. And it's awakening all of us to realize we can rise up. We will rise up. We are not going back to the way things were because they were all broken. And so we are collectively, our energy, our thought process is ascending upward. And so it's a painful, often painful process, but it's also really exciting too. And by focusing on the good, by focusing and looking for the good, we're manifesting more good. So this is a practice that I've started following for about a year and a half now, really consciously doing it. So every month when there is a new moon, it's tied to the moon cycles, of course. When there's a new moon, I sit down and I have a moon journal. I have my moon journal right here with my little moon doodles on it. And I write down what I want to see to happen in the next month or 3 months or whatever. And I stay focused on it. And I hold that vision in my head and I picture it and I think of it in the highest detail that I possibly can. I try and live it in my mind. And then it sometimes, more often than not, starts to happen. And that's a little bit of also what we're doing within purpose practice is creating that reality for you so you can envision what that amazing future could be. And every day, the little steps that you take forward to get to that. But yeah, it's important to have that focus and to believe that whatever the universe brings you is the right thing at the right time. And then when you have a full moon is when you let go of the stuff, the old stuff that no longer serves you, the old attitudes, beliefs, perhaps even old relationships. You let that go because, again, you're building the room and the space to allow the new stuff to come in. So I've been finding that helps me, especially during these times right now, just to maintain that focus of, okay, it may not be good at this moment, but if you can envision it, if you can picture it, if you can focus, like maintain your focus on what that could be in your life, if you can manifest that, then it will come to be.
That's such good stuff. Because I feel like, yeah, if you just focus on the good, that does not mean that there is not a swirling shit show around you still. It just means that your energy is focused on the positive nuggets that you can find out of that shit show.
That's right. It's all about maintaining and managing your energy. And you get to choose what you're focusing on. You can choose to focus on the shit show, but that's not going to serve you. It's only going to make you feel more, anxious and upset and worrisome. But if you choose to focus on the good stuff, you're gonna, it's almost like biofeedback, right? You're going to, it's going to encourage these, the healthy hormones, the good stuff that comes. And it's just going to create and become this amazing, biofeedback system for positivity.
Yeah. I just started listening to Glennon Doyle's Untamed, I don't know when it came out, but I've had it on my library app list forever, and it finally became available. And one of the sentences, and I don't know how she phrased it, she's a writer, so it's going to be way better than my butchered version, but feelings are meant to be felt. Yeah. And her whole concept was that we are taught that the only feeling you should be going for are happy feelings. But in reality, all of the feelings that are there are meant to be felt, which is why they're called feelings. And I'm like, there's something so profound about something so simple and so obvious that I think that now in the time of COVID, in this time of Ascension and all of these things, we are able to feel things in a much deeper way if we are paying attention to the fact that we should be feeling those things.
Yeah, you can't deny them. I mean, you've got to recognize them, respect them. And then if they are feelings that are of more of a challenging or negative manner or energy, then you have to trust and let them go. It takes a lot of work to do that. But if you are able to, hold a place for it and say, thank you. I needed to know that I was feeling this, but now, you've served your purpose. I'm going to let you go.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I think my third book, as I think about it, is going to be about the emotions of trying to step forward into allyship right now, and the feelings of shame, guilt, fear, paralysis. What do we do with all that? And I do say the same thing you just said, Jess. It's like, notice, but don't get too attached to it, and understand that it is part of, I love how we've been talking about what needs to be burned through. Notice that You're uncomfortable. You're feeling those things, but don't deny them, because you need to, the only way around this work is through.
Yeah.
And so through to me means sit with it and see what's on the other side with a lack of attachment. So I always do think when we get bogged down, we don't actually learn the learnings and take the piece forward that we really need.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we sort of sink into paralysis and shame, and we go like way down and we get stuck for a while. And the important thing, I think, is to continue moving through. But it's a really fraught time for people who are trying to stand up and use their voice more and apply what they've been learned this summer and what they've been shown this summer, albeit incredibly awkwardly. So it's just fascinating to me, because I've watched myself go through the not wanting to feel the feelings, then getting swamped by the feelings, getting paralyzed by the feelings, and, and then having to let some time pass so that I could actually take the best and leave the rest from from the shame spiral or the pit or the whatever the nadir of all of that is. I think that means the lowest point, right? The sort of bottom of the well. Yeah. So I think it's the emotional game too of progress is really interesting to watch ourselves move through. How do we sabotage ourselves and our own learning? And I'm sure when you work with purpose, you're like, you have to get through some of that, and you got to name some of that. Like, do I deserve to have a purpose? Do I think I deserve? Do I think I can be good at this? Do I think I could, it's a lot of that like self-limiting stuff that can be funky. So, I love that. Thanks for quoting that by Glennon Doyle, Jen. I'm making a little note here. Feelings are meant to be felt. Yeah, absolutely. We don't like being uncomfortable.
Yeah. And Jennifer, what I think you were just describing is basically called shadow work. You have to go deep. If you've got old issues or things that are holding you back, you've got to go deep, and you've got to confront them and talk to them a little bit, and then release and let go. So that's beautiful.
I love that. That's gorgeous. Thank you. This has
now
been wonderful.
The shadow work, right? Now is the time. Like, we are already in shit show of epic proportions. Like, now's the time to do the hard work. Like, there's no better time, because you're in a more forgiving environment by most of the people around you.
So right. Absolutely. So right. Absolutely.
I know we are already at the top of our time, which these conversations go by so fast, and I would love to just sit and talk for hours. Jess, you and I can make a date for that. But this was so great talking to you, Jess. Can you just kind of tell people how to, find purpose practice in demand communications, you in general, et cetera?
Absolutely. So purposepracticed.com is that website. I'm also found at indemandcommunications.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Auntie A+. That's my personal Instagram feed. Or you can find me on indemand_communications. That's my business. And then Purpose Practice is also on Instagram and on Facebook. Oh gosh, we're everywhere. So all the things. All the things. So come and check us out. Check out our website. Read the profiles of our founders. We all really believe in the business and feel very, very passionately about why we are here to help bring other people forward and find their purpose.
Yeah, so it's a good group. It's an amazing group of people. So strongly recommend. All right. This was great. Thank you so much, Jess. This was beautiful. I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you, ladies. What an honor. I appreciate it.